Well, hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. If you are new to the channel, my name is Sophia and I make book-related videos, mainly videos about literary fiction and mystery thriller books, but a little bit of everything. And today we are back with my May wrap-up. I read, wait for it, 15 books in May. I have never in my whole life read 15 books in May, in any month. Honestly, unless I was like binge reading picture books when I was 6. Truly, I don't know how this reading month went so well, but I'm just so excited to share it with you guys. As usual, I will be going from lowest rated book to my favorite book of the month, which also is in contention for my favorite book of the year. Maybe already is my favorite book of the year. I'm still mulling that one over. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So there is one book that I'm not going to tell you about in this wrap-up, which is called The Sirens by Amelia Hart. The reason why I'm not telling you about it is because we have our Paws and Pages live show for our book club coming up on June the 1st. And while if you snoop hard enough on my Goodreads, you might be able to see what I thought about it, I do want to save a little bit of anticipation for the live show. So I will be including that book in my June wrap-up. And I will have the information linked for the live show if you would like to join us. We do a non-spoilery section and also a spoilery section, so you can join even if you have not read the book. All right, first book I'm going to be chatting about is Audition by Katie Kitamura. So this is a literary fiction novel, a new release this year, and my first time reading Katie Kitamura. The premise of this one is about two people that meet in a restaurant. A woman, an older woman, and a younger man, and you don't know their relationship to each other. Are they family members? Are they in a romantic relationship? And the story kind of takes off from there. The big idea of this one is the idea that labels and what a relationship is forms how we think about people and how we think about their connection to each other. I did think that the writing craft of this was really excellent. Like the sentence to sentence structure was great, which makes me think that I could enjoy another Katie Kitamura book. But this one was just way too experimental for me. While I appreciated some of the bigger concepts and bigger thoughts of this book, I truly did not know what happened, and I think that that took away from my enjoyment and from me getting something meaningful out of this. Especially the second half of the book just really went off the rails for me. I ended up giving this one a 2 stars, mainly because of the quality of the writing, but if it was just me rating the actual story itself, it would have been a 1-star book. Next up, we have The Family Experiment by John Mars. So this was the May pick for an in-person book club that I'm a part of, and every month we use a little spinner to determine which book we're going to be reading for that month, and we got Dystopian, which isn't me, but this is the book that ended up getting chosen, and I went with it, and I didn't like it. This is I would describe as like dystopian thriller of sorts, set in the near future in the United Kingdom, where basically infertility is as prevalent as it is now, even more prevalent than it is now, but the cost of IVF and fertility treatments has skyrocketed even more, even though it is still ridiculously expensive. And so there has become a new technology for people to have children, which is a meta child, which you can kind of think of as like a virtual reality child, but a little bit more immersive. People put on a headset and then they're able to live in a universe where they would have a child. And so the main premise of this book is a reality TV show where families take care of their meta children, and the viewers watch and vote on who they think would be the best parents for a bio child, and they get their like bio child's fertility treatments paid for so that they can have a bio child. I don't have a big problem with the writing of this. I just don't really enjoy dystopian books. I thought that this was a little bit hard to follow at points because you are getting chapters from each of the different families in the family experiment. And so it's a lot of different names and people to keep straight. Some of the twists and turns just got a little ridiculous at the end of this one for me. I did think it was an interesting idea. I think John Mars is known for doing kind of dystopian, but not that far in the future or not that impossible dystopian books, which I thought this idea was really interesting. I just didn't actually enjoy the reading experience, partially because of my personal tastes in reading. It was not for me. So I gave this one a 2 stars. Next up, we have Antarctica by Claire Keegan. This was the first book that I read as part of my Reading Claire Keegan vlogs. If you guys aren't sure what I'm talking about, every now and then on my channel, I do a video where I read an author's entire backlist. And this month I decided to do Claire Keegan. So I read every single one of her books. And this was her first published short story collection. It made me fall in love with Claire Keegan's writing, how masterful she is at making a concise story and telling a full thought, a full narrative in so few words. This is named after one of the short stories in the collection, although not all of them are related. There's no like character interplay between them, and they share some vague themes, but they're not like super interconnected. There were some stories in here that I really, really loved. I did like Antarctica. Sisters and Burns were my favorite short stories in here. Some of them just lost to me. I didn't really like, they didn't seem like they fit in the collection, and I wasn't as interested in them as others. But overall, the writing craft is there. I did feel like this felt like a debut, but still I think a good introduction to Claire Keegan, especially if you're looking for a short story collection. So I ended up giving this one a 3 stars. Next up, we have the X Vows. So this is a spicy romance story. It is a friends to lovers kind of second chance romance story about 2 characters who I'm forgetting their names. They are the best woman and best man for their friend, and he's getting married, and so they of course have to go to the wedding and have to be civil around each other, but of course they had a relationship in the past, and so being in the same place is really bringing up a lot of the past conflicts. The wedding takes place in Napa, so it has a lot of like summery wedding vibes. There was a lot of like annoying miscommunication and interruption tropes in the middle of this. Like the main characters were about to have a conversation about something in their past relationship or trying to like address something, and then somebody would come in the room, and that would happen so many times that it just grew like annoying, a way of delaying the narrative that just seemed to repeat over and over, and also a lot of miscommunication trope as well. But I did really like the end of this one. I feel like the discussion of therapy and how talking through things with somebody who's trained can really help readdress things and help make like healthy habits. So I liked that discussion. And the end of this book really tugged at my heartstrings in a way that I didn't quite expect. But I was only able to give this 3 stars just because some of the things in the middle of this book really irritated me after a while. But if you're looking for a spicy summer romance, you might enjoy this one. Next up, I read The Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. This is another romance, a very popular book on BookTube this year. So the premise of this one is 2 writers are invited to meet with this elderly lady who lives on an island. She's a very like Evelyn Hugo-esque woman. She's had a very exciting life that's been in the news, in the tabloids, but then more recently she has kind of disappeared from public eye, and people haven't actually been able to find her. She invites these 2 characters to learn about her story and write her story. And so part of the book, you're getting a romance between these 2 writers, and the other part of the book, you are getting flashbacks into this woman's life. I got really bogged down in these flashbacks. I found it hard to like follow the number of characters, and I picked this up to be what the romance was between the 2 writers, not what the flashback chapters were. And so I felt like I was getting half of an Emily Henry book. And the half that I got was really good, but I was just frustrated reading the parts that I didn't like as much. Will I still pick up another Emily Henry? Of course I will. I really enjoy her. I think she's a great author. But this one, just like the focus of it wasn't what I wanted, and it wasn't like the reason why I turned to her books and why I enjoy her books. So I gave this a 3 stars. Next, we have Murder at Gull's Nest by Jess Kidd. This is the first book in a cozy mystery series. So this takes place in a small seaside town in the UK in the 1950s, just after World War II. And we're following our main character, Nora Breen. This whole story is going to be about Nora Breen. As you can see on this teacup, it says Nora Breen Investigates, if this will ever focus. But basically, Nora was a nun in a convent, and her best friend Frida decided to leave the convent. But Nora and Frida have always written to each other and kept up a really heartwarming pen pal relationship. Frida has moved to this small seaside town, but one day the letters just stop, and so Nora decides to leave the convent and try and hunt down Frida by going to the seaside town, living in the boarding house where she lived, which is full of some very mysterious and quirky characters, and really just tracing down what happened to her friend. There were a few too many side characters and side plots in this one. It felt at times like it was trying to set up the series more than it was trying to set this book up for success, but I did really enjoy the vibes of it, the setting of this town. I enjoyed the description of the characters and of the boarding house, and I think I would continue on with this series because it was just a great, like, cozy mystery vibe. So I ended up giving this one a 3.5 stars. Next, we have Raising Hair by Chloe Dalton. This is a memoir that I found out about through the Women's Prize for Nonfiction. It is about Chloe Dalton's experience during COVID, raising a hair, essentially. So she had a very busy life in the city, very high stress, but she decided to go to this cottage that her family owned during the pandemic time, or right before it, and then ended up staying there for the pandemic. And while she was on a walk one day, she came across this hair that was alone, like a baby hair, and she originally wasn't going to do anything and just let it be, but she came across it again and she thought it was injured or something, so ends up bringing it back to her cottage, and through a series of circumstances ends up raising this hair in her home. I thought this was really heartwarming. I thought the writing was really solid. I liked the description of Chloe and the hair kind of growing together over time and how both of them made alterations and changes in their lives. Chloe like learning to slow down, and the hair becoming more trustworthy of Chloe over time, which is a little bit of a contentious topic, like should a wild animal really be living in someone's home? But I think that this book did a really good job of exploring that theme. I did think that this was a little bit slow because it truly is just about this woman raising a hair. There is no like big plot twist. There's a few little things that happen, but that is pretty much what it's about. But overall, I did enjoy it. It was a heartwarming and very adorable time. There were some very cute illustrations of the hair throughout the book. So I think if you're looking for something like that, you would probably enjoy this one. And I ended up giving it a 4 stars. Next up, I read Walk the Blue Fields by Claire Keegan. This is her second published work and also her second short story collection. And similar to the first short story collection by Claire Keegan, there were, her writing is phenomenal in this. And I did find more short stories in here that I resonated with than in her first one, Antarctica. If you've read this, some of my favorites were Parting Gift, Walk the Blue Fields, and Forrester's Daughter. But it still did have some moments that felt not as polished as some of her later work. I did tab it. I had a really fun time reading it, but it didn't quite raise to the level of a 5-star for me, so I ended up giving this a 4 stars. Next, we have Mad Honey by Jodi Picoult and Jennifer Finley Boylan. This is part mystery and part high school love story. It follows a woman named Olivia and her son Asher who moved to this northeastern town in the U.S. to kind of start over for some complex circumstances. And then also this girl named Lily and her mother who also move into the town for kind of a similar reason. Part of the book you're following Lily's perspective, and part of the book you're following Olivia or Asher's mother's perspective. The big plot point in this is that Lily has died and Asher is currently on trial for murdering her. And so it's going back through their whole relationship, and also kind of Olivia trying to figure out, did Asher really do it, and how well she actually knows her son. It felt really seamless to have been written by two authors, and I think overall the writing was really good. I liked a lot of the issues that were brought up in this, which I'm not going to tell you because I don't want to spoil them, but I thought that they were really tactfully done. I did feel like this was a little bit too long, and part of the book, I wanted this to be like a mystery whodunit thriller, and I wanted a few more twists, and then part of me, I also wanted like more of just a high school romance story, and so it felt like it wasn't leaning into either quite enough for me, but I did still really enjoy it, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. And next we have So Late in the Day, also by Claire Keegan. This is her most recent release and also a short story collection. It's called Stories of Women and Men, but it has a lot to do with misogyny in relationships. This is a bind up of her most recent story called So Late in the Day, but then also a couple stories from her previous collections that have to do with similar themes. I did review it for the full collection, but the only new work that I was reading in here was So Late in the Day, which I thought was really well done, and I saw a big evolution in her storytelling from So Late in the Day to from her previous collections. But I just didn't think, like, as a whole work, it quite rose to the level of a 5 stars for me. So Late in the Day was an excellent story. I did like a lot of the things that it said about interpersonal relationships between women and men and misogyny and the many forms that it takes. But I don't know. Something wasn't quite there for this to be a 5-star, although still a very excellent collection. Next, we have Marble Hall Murders by Anthony Horowitz. This is a chunker mystery novel and the 3rd book in a series, the Susan Ryland series. All of these books follow Susan Ryland, who is an editor for a mystery author, and she basically reads the mystery author's manuscript, and hidden within the manuscript are clues to a real world crime, and so this takes on that similar trope. As per usual, the end of this was so satisfying. That is one of the reasons why I loved Anthony Horowitz's books so much, is that he does a fantastic job of tying in all of those little clues, those little weird things that's on page like 20 of the book will somehow end up in the end of this and make a very satisfying package. I did not like the epilogue of this. I never like epilogues to books. And I don't know if this is the conclusion and that's why there was a need to make a kind of a sappy epilogue, or if there's going to be another book in this series. And I also did think that the middle of this was a little long, which is a critique that I have of a lot of the books in this series, because there's a whole manuscript within the book. And so they do have a way of dragging a little bit. However, a lot of the details were very carefully woven into the end of the book, so I do think the payoff was there if you were able to kind of get through the middle part. I ended up giving this a 4 stars, and I really enjoyed it. All right, we are now into my 5 stars. I did have 3 5-star books this month. The first one was Nesting. So this was super readable, but also incredibly heartbreaking. It is a novel about a domestic abuse situation between a woman and a man, and they have children. There's a lot of manipulation of the husband towards the wife relating to the children, and also so much fear with the wife trying to like keep the children safe and get them out of very bad situations, but also not wanting to like put them at risk by being in unsafe living situations. Sometimes I thought this was just slightly heavy-handed on the metaphors, but it was just so compulsively readable and really heartbreaking and just an excellent novel. But a big trigger warning in this one for domestic abuse is that was pretty much on every page of this book, but overall I really enjoyed it and I gave it 5 stars. Next up, we have Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. This is a story that takes place around Christmas time and follows a man named Bill Furlong, who is a coal merchant. He lives in Ireland, and really this is a short novella. He is kind of living paycheck to paycheck. He lives with his wife Eileen and their daughters, and his wife Eileen is very like focused on day to day, making sure the bills are paid and everything is done on time. But Bill has this not like midlife crisis, but like what is the greater meaning of things, how can we like help people, and what more can I be doing than just like taking care of the day-to-day things or small things like these. This did feel very much like a Christmassy story. There was that kind of like moral of the story vibe like there is in a book like The Christmas Carol. And I loved this. I would love to reread this around Christmas time because it just felt like it would be perfect for that time. The writing in here was absolutely phenomenal. It was, again, very concise, descriptive, beautifully done, and I thoroughly enjoyed it and definitely tabbed it up. So, of course, 5 stars for this one. And last but not least, my favorite book of the month by a little bit was Foster by Claire Keegan. This, again, is a short novella. It is about a girl who lives in a family who has a lot of different children, and they just, there's a new child that's about to be born, and they don't have a lot of resources, and so they decide to send this child to live with another family for the summer to be fostered. And it's about this young girl kind of coming into her own, missing home, kind of the complexity of that, and her life with this family who's fostering her. This was so stunning. I absolutely adored every part of it. It does have a little bit of an ambiguous ending, so just be prepared if you read this one. But this was flawless. No notes, absolutely perfect. And I'm going to reread this one very soon because I'm already missing it and it's tugging at my heartstrings. All right, so that is my very long May wrap up. I would love to know if you've read any of the books that I chatted about, or if you have any recommendations for maybe your favorite book of the month. And with that, I will see you guys very soon with another video. Bye.